And welcome to this meeting of the Communities Committee, 5th of December 2017. Just remind you that this meeting will be recorded and subsequently made available to the public for listening purposes. Claire, can you get the Sederunt apologies, please?
Thank you, Chairman. We've got 18 members present this morning. Apologies from Councillor Wood, Councillor Ronnie and Councillor Tate, currently not present, probably an apology.
Thank you. Have we any declarations of interest? No, in that case then we'll go straight on to item 3, the minute of the meeting of 5th September. So it's up for approval. John? Aye. Okay, I'm happy to move. John will second. Comfy with that? Yep. Okay, thank you. We'll go straight into the business per se. Item 5 is the revenue monitoring report for the period. Sorry? Oh, sorry. Oh, forgot about that. Right. Sorry. Item 4, sorry, was the Public Service Awards for last night, which happened last night. John, can you give us a quick update what happened?
We're up at Scottish Parliament last night for the Public Service Awards. Like, we were in the digital category, and along with the other two were Transport Scotland and the National Entitlement Card, and the winner was the NHS 24, NHS Scotland, NHS Grampian. So I think that for us even to get, we didn't win the award. The award went to the NHS one, and I think it was a great achievement that we actually got in the 3. So I think they've got to be congratulated for the work they've done for the DG VOST to even get in the top 3. It was a pretty good achievement. Like, but as I say, it was a shame when you think we were up against two heavy hitters, and they were all good. Some of the categories and the nominees that went forward were absolutely really first class. Like, and as I say, we didn't lose. We just come as runners up. Like, so that was what happened last night.
Okay, Jane.
Well, actually, I just want to say there is nothing better than plaudits from the public about DG VOST. I was asked to convey our thanks, the thanks of the public for DG VOST. So I think within Dumfries and Galloway is recognised as something seriously good. So thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much. Anyone else? I just second the remarks that John made and Jane's made, and I think it's a tremendous achievement, and well done to everyone, and I think we should pass on the congratulations to this committee and to the staff. John? I
think I just got to realise that with our nomination, it cost something, it was £250 or something. I don't know how much the rest of them cost to actually win the award, like, but as I say, when you put in the comparison, like, as I say, £250 and to be in the top, in the 3 nominees, it's really excellent.
A classic example of doing more with less. Okay, sorry about that. Very important. We'll move on to item 5, the Communities Revenue Monitoring Report for the period ended of the 31st of October. Report provides members with an overview of the financial performance against budget for communities for 2017-18 based on the monitoring information for the period up to the 31st of October. I'm encouraged that the Directorate continues to display sound budget management arrangements, with the forecast projected to be a small underspent at the end of the financial year. Derek and take any questions, or the finance officers here as well. Derek, have you anything to add to this?
No, just obviously as members will appreciate, we're dealing with a £27 million budget, so therefore the small differences represent just about 1% of the overall budget. So we'll keep it in perspective. It's till the end of October, so there's still a few months to go, so our eyes continue to be on expenditure and income. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, I think I'll just go straight to questions if the finance officers here, if any questions. Ian?
Well, just probably a comment more than anything, but I just think it is obviously 29k, it's really tight, to say the least. This Directorate seems to be exceptionally good at keeping their books balanced, so they do, especially when you compare it to some other Directorates, I would say. But 29k, it's no lot, but ultimately, I kind of thought about it in a local context. Andale South Ward, if we put that 29k into somebody cutting grass for 6 months, our grass would be absolutely extreme and pristine, to say the least. So I just think when it comes to getting it, we need to make sure this money is getting spent in the best way, and I think it's only fair to say that, but absolutely first-class work, bringing it on back on balance again.
Thanks very much, Ian. I think your attempt at lobbying for the grass cutting in Annandale's well received, but thanks. I think there's other people who've got their eye on it as well. Anyone else? Nope. In that case, then we'll just go straight to the recommendations. One, we're asked to note that based on the monitoring position to the end of October, communities are projecting a small underspend of 29k. That's in Appendix 1. Happy note. 2, progress against the delivery of the agreed savings applied to the 2017-18 communities budget, Appendix 2 again. And I'll just take the two together. 3, progress on the delivery of policy development initiatives included within the communities budget in Appendix 3. We're happy to note both of those? Right, okay, thank you very much. We'll just move swiftly on then to item 6, which is the 6-month assessment of the business plan. Particularly encouraged about our performance in those activities that are focused on tackling the causes of inequality and poverty. The achievements which are set out in section 3.1 on page 31 are most impressive. I also believe that health and safety is an important indicator of our performance, so I'm pleased to see the positive performance which is detailed in pages 36 to 38. The report provides members with an assessment of the delivery of the 2017-18 business plan for the Communities Directorate and provides a review for the 6-month period from April to September this year. It is reassuring to me that despite the financial challenges facing the Directorate, services continue to achieve good results in terms of the delivery of both key performance indicators and projects. I've got Serena Dunlop here to ask her any questions, and Derek as well, of course. So anything to add to the report?
Nothing to add, Chairman.
Okay, thanks. Then we'll just go straight to questions. Graham?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chair. Page 43, it's on the EMS. Obviously, we're looking at 78, just over 78%. Obviously, there's still issues with EMS, and obviously, just wonder how long is this review going to be taking? I know the director's going to be taking it on with elected members. Just wonder when the review, when will this come into force, and elected members can feed into this. Obviously, there's still issues here. I've had issues with EMS for a long time, and sometimes it's very, very good. But I think it needs to be addressed because elected members need to know what's going on there. So, just wonder if I get an update from the director on the direction of travel of that.
Serena? Derek, you want to take that?
Yep, thanks, Chairman. I'll pass over to Serena through you just in a second to give the details of the arrangements. But Councillor Bell's quite right that there's a mixed position with the performance of EMES in terms of member satisfaction with it, and I would fully accept that point. I think in overall terms, the 78%, given the pressures on services, though it does in overall terms, not too bad a performance position. I think the biggest frustration with EMES comes when members feel as if they have put in a request and it seems to be passed around a few people, or the response is not thorough. And I think that's something we continue to work with services on to ensure that actually when you put in a response, you get a far more comprehensive answer, and that's something we continue to work on. Through you, Chair, last Serena, maybe just to pick up the work she's doing with our colleagues in BTS in terms of the future options.
Good morning. We're exploring various different systems at the moment. We have experienced an increase in the level or the number of inquiries that we have received, so that has put some substantial pressure on the current system. We're continuing to engage with stakeholder groups to identify or explore the best system to utilise, and we will have an update for members shortly.
Okay, Graham. Yeah. Yeah, I'll let you back in, and it's Jane after that.
No, that's a satisfactory answer, Chair.
Mine was about EMES as well, and this is just really a technical question. I just wondered whether anybody else was having the same problem, which is mine, which is demanding an evaluation of the response, and I've actually never received a response. And this has now happened about 4 or 5 times, and I just wondered whether I'm alone in this, or whether it's happening to other people as well. So you get a demand for, how was it for you? Well, I have no idea because I haven't received anything. So it's really to say that I think there must be some sort of hitch in the system, and I'd be glad to get that sorted out. But otherwise, can I say that I continue to like the inquiry system, generally speaking. I think it works very well, and I just would like to make certain that it was going to increase in terms of its performance.
We have been completing some housekeeping on the system, so that has uncovered some cases which had not originally been closed down. Part of the current process is to ensure that you're happy with your response. You should have received a response before you're prompted, so I'll go back and I will investigate that. But if you are happy with your response when you respond to that, that ensures that we can close down open cases. Thank you.
Jim?
I have absolutely no bother with EMES, Chair. I refuse to use it and I think it's a waste of time. However, my question is about the homeless service. And what I'm experiencing, no for the first time, and I'm not going to discuss it today, because I'm dealing with a case at the moment, but the social landlords are not as flexible and as helpful, maybe, as they could be, given the circumstances that applicants find themselves in. And maybe talk to you about it offline, Serena, but I am concerned that they're trying to apply stringent rules to people who are in difficult circumstances.
You can speak to Sarah offline, yeah, I find happy. Anyone else? No, sorry, Ian.
Thanks, Chair. I'm the same ilk when it comes to Councillor Dempster, EMS. I haven't got any problems with it because I don't use it. I think we have to recognise the level of performance here is high when you look across the whole report. The only one I'm going to pick up on, so recognising that the homelessness target. So we're looking at page 43, I think it is. We're looking at page 44, and it tells us that we're below target there by 7%. Our target's 40%. Don't think it goes into the fact that Lowburn's dropping off the Lowburn Housing Association is dropping off the Common Housing Register. But I just wonder what that 7% drop. How does that impact the people in Dumfries and Galloway? What effect does that have on them? And is there the fact that Lowburn are moving away from that? Will that have a further impact in regards to how we perform?
I'm going to ask Harry to answer that question, Ian.
Thanks, Chair. It's actually an improving situation in Dumfries and Galloway. If you turn the clock back maybe 3 years, we were actually only achieving about 18.5%, and we've deliberately set the target pretty high in a national context. Some local authority areas, the target's 10%. So on that basis, whilst we've set the ambitious target at 40, we're currently at a 6-month stage achieving 33%. The latest position as of the end of November is actually up to 37.8%. So it's an improving situation, members, and I'm confident that trend will continue. And I think what we've had to do, registered social landlords were mentioned in an earlier question, we've had to work very hard to make sure that RSLs are held to account in terms of how they approach this key priority, and certainly I'm encouraged by their response to date. Hopefully that answers the question.
Happy, Ian, or you want back in?
I suppose the two questions in particular was what impact does it have on the members of the public? But good to hear that we're very close to the 40% mark, so we're heading in the right direction. And actually, what you're saying is 40% is ambitious. But I just wonder, so what is the actual impact on people who are homeless? Find yourself in that position. So from an elected member's perspective, put myself in their shoes. I wouldn't like to find myself in that position, but absolutely anybody can find themselves there. So what impact is that having on us not reaching our target? That's what I really want to understand. And I know we're heading towards a 40%. What impact is that having on the people out there on the ground that are actually whether it's the 7% or 2.5%, maybe we're looking at now, that aren't actually getting into accommodation as quick as we would like. Chairman, I suppose that's the main point in regards to. But I mean, I just wondered, like I've asked, the fact that Lorburn Housing Association are dropping off the Common Housing Register, I just wondered, or the Common Housing allocations, when it comes to joining up the four associations we have across, housing associations, what impact will that have? Is it negative? Is it positive? What is it?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, our ambition for individuals or families who present as homeless is to find them permanent, sustainable accommodation that is fit for purpose in terms of standard, location, as much as we can. Until the point where we can permanently rehouse, this is what this performance area is about, they're given appropriate temporary accommodation, and obviously the effort has got to be put into ensuring that they move from temporary to permanent as quickly as possible. You're right that Lorburn has withdrawn from the Common Housing Register. They're using an approach that's referred to as choice-based letting. We're continuing to work with Lorburn to make sure that, despite following a different system, our priority clients, i.e. homeless clients, still don't be disadvantaged as a result of that. I think it's fair to say that short term there has perhaps been some teething problems with that new approach, but we're certainly liaising with them very regularly to ensure that if there are any issues that we are highlighting, they are made aware of it and are in a position to do something about it. So I think we've dramatically improved the performance in this area about putting homeless clients into permanent accommodation, which at the end of the day is absolutely the right thing to do.
Okay, Ian.
Thank you, Chair, and that's great. I think I would imagine I'll keep an eye out for future performance reports, and we'll see if Lorburn Housing Association has got an impact, either positive or negative, but take on board what's been said. Thanks very much.
No one else? In that case, then we'll move on to recommendations. So we're asked, 1, to review the 6-month summary of performance of the Community Business Directorate Business Plan for the period April 2017 to September 2017, which includes the performance information on health and safety, Appendix 1. Happy to note? Thank you. Secondly, we're being asked to scrutinise the exception reporting and consider whether the actions proposed are adequate to improve performance and future monitoring of areas which have not met the target. That's Appendix 2. Happy to note? Thank you. 3, agree the 2 proposed amendments to current business plan projects in Appendix 3. And I'll just put the second bit together. And 4, note the Communities Directorate Business Plan for 2018-22 is to be brought to members in the new year, will be fully aligned to reflect the Council priorities and commitments within the Council Plan 2017-2022, including those elements set out in Appendix 4. We're happy to note? Thank you. With that, now we'll move on to item 7. This is the Universal Credit Update. This Council remains committed to protecting the most vulnerable people, and this report provides members with an update on the implementation of Universal Credit full service by the Department for Work and Pensions, and also provides an indication of the anticipated local impact. I've got Lorna here to answer any questions that you might have. I would just like to say that you will see in the papers a copy of the letter that I sent to the Secretary of State for Scotland after the last committee, on behalf of this committee, and I can report to you that as of this minute, I have not even had the courtesy of a response for acknowledgement of receipt of letter. So I'm looking to my left here, and maybe they can influence on that individual to make sure that at least has the decency to respond to official letters from Dumfries and Galloway Council. I'll now move on to, I think, have you anything you want to add to the report? No.
Nothing to add to the report,
Okay,
just happy to take questions.
In which case then I'll just move straight to questions. Adam?
Thank you, Chair. I think, first of all, I'd just like to say I stand by everything that I said at this last committee in October, I believe it was, when we had Universal Credit come up to this committee. I still believe that this is the absolutely wrong policy. I completely disagree with it. However, it is going to be implemented, and I believe that it's our duty as a council to ensure that we protect the most vulnerable people, as you said earlier. Although the UK government has buckled under the pressure of many interested parties, and particularly around the 7 days waiting at the start of an application, and around the delay in a rollout, I believe that merely it will just give us a little bit extra time, but essentially it's not going to actually help us to protect our most vulnerable anymore. Quite concerning as well, actually, that this is one of the Tories' most flagship welfare policies, and they simply can't get it right, and it is to the detriment of the most vulnerable people living here in Dumfries and Galloway. I think it's fair to say that actually the UK government's handling of the universal credit rollout actually makes the Brexit negotiations look like a little bit of success. And that's not an analogy I would use lightly. I do have some concerns about this report and some questions I'd like to ask. Paul, at 3.1 it says that the live service, no new claims from the end of December 2017. Customers who would have claimed universal credit will claim legacy benefits. Am I right in saying in the seminar that was put on a couple of weeks ago and at this committee that there was some claimants who would be claiming universal credit now, and will they be able to continue to do so between January and May? And also, just in the letter that we received from the Department for Work and Pensions, I noticed that Ayr, Girv and Girvan in South Ayrshire will actually have universal credit rollout earlier than us. Have we got links with colleagues in South Ayrshire Council to work with them? I remember from the last committee we spoke about East Lothian and the Highlands and how the rollout just had a lot of problems. Hopefully it might not be as bad given the changes in the implementation, but do we have those links with colleagues in South Ayrshire to try and sort of rectify some of the issues that they find so that we can help to protect the most vulnerable people living in Dumfries and Galloway?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. The first one, 3.1, anyone who is currently getting universal credit will continue to receive universal credit. What won't happen is no one will be able to make a new claim for universal credit from December until live service rolls out in May, and full service rolls out in May. So where previously someone who was seeking work would have went to claim universal credit, they will go and claim job seekers allowance and housing benefit. So slow down completely, it's all stop. Ayr, do we have links in Ayr? Yes, we have significant links with Scottish local authorities. I chair our Institute's Welfare Reform Consortium, and one of the key things on the agenda is making sure that universal credit rollout goes as smoothly as it possibly can, and our part in this role is done as efficiently as possible. Learning from each other so that tips and tricks that work well for us. We are watching quite closely our border authorities, South Ayrshire being one of them, because it increases the likelihood of moves within. So we'll likely see more full service customers moving to Dumfries and Galloway, given that the border countries have gone live.
Thank you. I've got first-time speakers, and I'll bring you back in, okay? Unless it's a follow-up question.
It's simply actually just to thank you for your response, and I'm really pleased to hear that, and also just to thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it's a fantastic job, and for that seminar that many of us attended, it was really informative, and I certainly had a lot of questions answered at it.
Thanks. I've got Rob and then Jane.
Thank you, Chairman. This is again on 3.1. It's regarding the removal of waiting days. No, it was announced in the UK budget, or in the UK budget statement. I'm going to check my understanding of this. Is the removal of the 7 waiting days still means that there could be a wait of a week and a month, 5 weeks effectively? That's my understanding, but I wanted to confirm whether that is in fact correct. I'm also noting if that's going to be abolished for customers from February 2018, I presume that, although it won't be an issue for us necessarily, or potentially it is, again, perhaps clarity would be helpful, there will naturally still be people that will be waiting 6 weeks. Clarity on that, I think, would be helpful. And also, would you be able to give me an idea of how that compares with, say, job seekers allowance, etc.? And just how that new waiting time, which I think is 5 weeks, if it is 5 weeks, how that compares with the existing or legacy benefits.
Okay, thank you very much. The removal of waiting days will affect full service customers only from February 18 That's the reason that live service has effectively been shut down. We have to appreciate that the DWP run these two benefits on two completely separate systems. They're not willing to make the changes to the live service platform because it's not cost effective, hence why it's been closed down. Changes will go into full service in February. Customers claiming universal credit just now and up to that point will still have waiting days. You're quite correct that universal credit is a monthly benefit. It's a monthly assessment period, so people will wait 1 month for their entitlement to be assessed, and then they will receive their payment 1 week later. How does it compare to job seekers allowance? Well, job seekers allowance is slightly different. It's currently paid fortnightly, but the payment date for customers, well, it's actually their sign-on date for customers is set on the basis of their national insurance number. So if someone claimed job seekers allowance today, say, for example, it was assessed and their entitlement was assessed at the end of the week, then they could receive payment next Tuesday for the money they were entitled to up to that point, because that's their next payment date, because it's on a schedule. But they could equally wait a week to get it assessed and then another fortnight to get their money. Tax credits is paid 4 weekly, assessed on an annual situation. Payment is made in that fashion, usually 4 weekly. And housing benefit, we're currently processing housing benefit in 15.2 days this year, and payments are made a week later. We pay on a Tuesday, or the payment run is done on a Tuesday. So in reality, if we process someone's claim, they could have their money within 3.5 weeks, up to that point. But the main difference with universal credit and these other legacy benefits is the monthly assessment period. If, say, for example, someone claimed job seeker allowance now, then they would wait a week and then their entitlement would effectively begin from that point. If they got a job 3 days later, they would still get 3 days worth of money. If they go to universal credit, if they get paid before their assessment date, they won't get, that will be taken into account for the full month. But equally it works on the flip side. If they started a job 3 days later and they didn't get paid for another month, their universal credit would be full for that month. So it's swings and roundabouts.
Just to come back very briefly, just on one point. Certainly this establishes that universal credit is potentially quite effective for people who are in work, but it does also highlight the real problems for people who clearly are not. I think that's where the weakness of it is. And if I've understood that correctly, this establishes that it remains the form of benefit that has the longest waiting time. I mean, I am correct in understanding that. It's been reduced by a week, but it's still 5 weeks, whereas what I was picking up was the longest you would have to wait for anything else was 4 weeks in the tax credit situation. I mean, that I have understood that correctly.
Yes, you're quite correct, but it's paid in arrears, and that's the way the benefit's been designed. It's exactly the same way as somebody starting work who misses the payment date could wait. You know, I could start a new job with the council on the 10th of December and not get paid any money till the 15th of January. It's just the same. It's just the way it is.
Okay, I'm going to move on. I've got Jane, Ian Carruthers, Sean, and then Adam coming back in again. So Jane first.
Thank you very much. I think we'd be probably quite interested if Paula will be able to tell us roughly how many people the deputy leader's idea example might actually involve. I want to go back just briefly. It's very admirable. I mean, Councillor Wilson should be congratulated because it's incredibly refreshing to hear somebody really standing out from from the Labour Party. His party, after all, supported the principles behind universal credit some 10 years ago. I just want to say that there's always room in the independent ranks for somebody who's prepared to stand out against and voice opinions against their rank and file. Chairman, to go back to the implicit consent issue, I think it's really very rude that you haven't received a reply to your letter, particularly to do with the questions over implicit consent. And I would like to say that I will simply be sending any particularly difficult cases that I have. I will support anybody that I have, and I will simply say to them, you must speak directly to your national elected members, and they will have to deal with it. If I'm not going to get access, that's exactly what should happen, and I will support them to do that.
Thanks, Jane. I think, in fairness, 10 years ago, the councillor was still at primary, no, secondary school, but then just in secondary school. Right, okay, enough hilarity. It's a serious subject. Ian Crothers.
Chairman, I suppose the only point I'll really come back on after what's been said is the response time. Maybe it is inappropriate, you could say, that you've not had a response. But what I did notice, fortunately I wasn't at the last meeting, I wasn't in the country, but I think that was the 19th of October. I noticed your letter's dated the 8th of November, so I don't know when it got sent. If it got sent on the 8th or the 12th or the 15th, so it took 3 to 4 weeks to actually, from that date, to get the letter away to the Secretary of State in the first place. But certainly we'll make sure that you'll get as quick a response as what you certainly can. But there's been a bit of a delay for some reason in regards to getting that letter out there in the first place. So I don't think the finger of blame can be pointed in one direction. And we'll have to see what the amendments that the Westminster made in regards to this process, how they pan out, and look forward just to see the differences. And I think Councillor Maitland's point in regards to how many people this actually affects, what is the impact in regards to what Rob brought up, I think that's important that we can possibly hear that, if not today, at some point later on.
Sorry, was there a question there, Ian? Forgive me.
Just what I said was, I had to make the point that, okay, it's fair as what I said, that fair point, you've not had a response yet, but it took you nearly 4 weeks to get the letter away to him in the first place. It's so we're kind of behind the 8 ball with that. Certainly from a political point of view, we'll make sure this is at the forefront of our minds. We'll pick it up with the Secretary of State, and a response will be forthcoming, I'm sure of that, because he certainly takes his job seriously. That's the point I was making, but I think in regards to, because of the other comments, I preempted what I said before it came in, that have already been made. I think my questions have been answered, but I think at the point that Councillor Maitland raised in regards to Rob's question, I think that needs to be answered either today or at some later point in time.
Absolutely, and I think if he took his job seriously, even 4 weeks is more than enough to at least send me back a response to say I've got this and I'm looking into it. But we're not going to get dragged into that. We are where we are with that. He's chosen not to do so. Move on, Sean.
Yeah, just a little comment on that. He's probably too embarrassed to actually write back, and the impact that's got to have on his constituents. I won't hold your breath if we maybe write another letter about the closures of the Royal Bank of Scotland in our region as well. So that's for another day. I can recall something that was in the budget with regards to all the temporary accommodation housing cost claims, that they would be paid via housing benefit and not by universal credit from April 2018. Do you have any update on that, and what will be the likely impact on our services?
Yep, thank you. The temporary accommodation, it was mentioned in the budget that it would be coming out of universal credit. If the main sticking point for us is what are the DWP defining as temporary accommodation. When it was first touted in London, it was very much talked about emergency accommodation where they were put into hostels and the like. So in reality, we are waiting on the definition so we can determine what the likely impact. The best case scenario is all of our homeless accommodation would fall under that definition. So what customers would do is they would claim universal credit for their subsistence income and receive housing benefit for their temporary accommodation costs. This will make a significant change to customers in temporary accommodation. Back to the monthly assessment period, the issue often is a customer makes a claim because they've moved into temporary accommodation, and by the time a month is up, they don't live there anymore. So the housing costs that are being calculated for their universal credit are not reflective of their actual housing costs over the entire month. It's a snapshot position at that point. We need to try and ensure that the customers are supported to have a connection with their rental liability to ensure that they take it seriously, that they've got a liability to pay and are supported to do so. Temporary accommodation stays often span that period, and it causes significant administrative issues. If they brought that out, universal credit for their own income is still an issue with their monthly budgeting, but at least their rent is sorted.
Thank you. Jim Dempster.
Thanks. It's not so much about universal credits itself as maybe the process. There's no numbers on the paper. We have about 3.8 digital support, Paula. Obviously, these are claimants, especially new claimants, will be experiencing all sorts of difficulty, financial stress, etc. Are we sure that every customer services centre will have the capacity to deal with applicants and have the resources available to support them? The last thing we want to do is be sending them to find bus fares over the region to get to a specific location to deal with a dedicated member of staff that's able to work for them and provide them with the kind of level of support they would need.
Paula?
The customer service centres throughout the region all have digital capability in relation to computer stations there where customers will be able to claim DWP benefits. There's a clear commitment that they will be prioritised, so if they were to go to that customer service centre and somebody else was using the PC for something else, then there would be a priority attached to the fact that they need to use it for their DWP benefit system. How can we ensure that the customers get the right level of support? Certainly what's happening in other authorities is they're not finding that customers are coming to local authorities for new claim support. It's more the ongoing updating their journal and dealing with issues. The volumes have not been what they have been expecting, and I'm just hopeful that once it comes to May and we start to roll out, we can test to make sure that the support is available and ensure we're there to meet it. What we have to realise is customers who are claiming job seekers allowance just now are currently having to travel to Dumfries and Stranraer to meet the DWP for their job seekers allowance identity check and claimant commitment interview, and these 3 locations are heavily supported in relation to digital support. Really, is there much more we could do? Customers who are experiencing trouble in crisis and don't have the money to get that can apply for a crisis grant to ensure that they've got bus fare to get into a facility where they can support their claim.
Just briefly, I don't know whether that was a yes or a no, Paula. I would hope that all members of staff are trained to a level that will be able to support people to apply digitally without having, I understand in certain circumstances they will have to travel to centres for specific purposes, but lots of folk will present on a day-to-day basis looking for guidance, information, expertise that I would hope each member of staff in our customer services centre will be able to provide.
Yeah, Paula.
We are making sure that all staff will be fully trained in the lead-up to full service rollout. They will receive, if you remember in the last month's pack, we had a list of the training modules that were available. All staff in customer services will receive training in relation to universal credit to ensure they're able to do the job that is required of them. We will be running training before rollout, and there will be more training and support after rollout. The customer services officer, James Cox, that I'm dealing with, is ensuring that the Band 5 benefit officers receive enhanced training to ensure that they're able to support their staff, other staff in that facility, to support the customers most in need.
Just before I go on to let Adam back in, Paula, can you tell us how much support do we get from the UK government to help people in dire distress? I know that they do give us a small amount of money for some other benefits, but what about universal credit? Through the chair, please.
All I can say is what we got last year, and I'd have to check the actual figures. We send a return back, and current live service volumes receive about £1,200 a quarter to support customers with personal budget and support and digital support. I am expecting there'll be a bit more for future, but what we have to remember is we are a delivery partnership with the DWP, and that's all they're expecting us to do. The rest of it, they're expecting us and paying us to do particular things. Anything we do over and above that has to be funded internally.
Just so that I'm absolutely sure, Paula, did you say £1,200 per quarter?
Yes.
Right. I'll just repeat, £1,200 per quarter. Yeah.
If you want me to get the exact figure, I'd have to check.
Ian, absolutely. A wee apology would be nice, thank you. Okay, it's accepted gracefully.
Chair, I would like to suggest some additional recommendations if you're ready to move on, but I'm happy to wait.
Yes, I'm hanging a second here. I've got Jane would like back in, and then we'll come to that.
If it would be all right, Chairman, I think Paula probably had an answer to the question that both Ian and I asked about the deputy leader's question. I think she's probably got a ballpark figure.
It was just about the job seekers allowance customers. We have currently about 350 people on job seekers allowance just now. If you're looking at move on to universal credit, we've got about 300 people on universal credit. When it moves to full service, the impact, the move from benefits to universal credit is likely to happen about 100 claims a month.
Okay, okay, I think it's time to move on. We've thrashed this well and truly to death here. Adam, what did you say? You had a couple of recommendations for a 2.3 and a 2.4.
Yep, so I'm quite happy to propose them. 2.3 would be to note the committee's frustration that there's been no response from the Secretary of State for Scotland and agree that further contact should be made, and a 2.4, which is to condemn the UK Government's welfare policy, in particular its handling of the universal credit rollout.
Can I just clarify the 2.3? Can I add in there outlining our concerns or continued concerns or something down those lines, because we can't just leave it hanging at contact should be made. I mean, I could write and wish my Merry Christmas, you know, without being flippant about it. So I need some direction of what you want me to put in the letter.
I think we've got notes as to what we've picked up today, particularly, I'm trying to think off the top of my head now. Maybe governance could help here. Just notes that we've taken down about specific areas of policy that we're concerned about. I'm quite happy for those to be added into those proposed recommendations.
Okay, so if I add in outlining our concerns or this committee's concerns, we'd be happy with that. Yeah. So let's move on to the recommendations then. One were asked. Sorry, Ian.
I just think, I need to hear that again, but I couldn't possibly sign up to what I think I heard in regards to the change there. I mean, I think there's appropriate recommendations here. Or should we be applying it? Let's note that the chairman took nearly 4 weeks to write to the Secretary of State. Let's note how long did it take him to post it. I mean, how far do you want to go with this? It's just complete politics. We're here to serve the people in Dumfries and Galloway, and you're trying to make... We're going to end up... It feels like we're moving towards North Korea on a daily basis.
Are you suggesting an amendment?
Absolutely. Like I said, as 2.1, 2.2 as they are.
Do you have a seconder? Ian. Move to vote. Can you just clarify for us, Claire, exactly what the...
All right. Are you seconding that?
Yes,
Right, thank you. We've got a motion proposed by Councillor Wilson, seconded by the Chair, especially the recommendations as they are, plus 2 additional recommendations, 2.3 and 2.4. 2.3 being to note the community's frustration that no reply has been received from the Secretary of State, and to ask that the Chair write further on this committee's concerns. 2.4 being to condemn the UK Government's welfare policy, in particular its handling of the universal credit rollout. And we have an amendment proposed by Councillor Carruthers, seconded by Councillor Maitland, which are the recommendations 2.1 and 2.2 as they are in the paper.
Okay, Jane, get your hand up.
Thank you very much. Now, I did want to second the proposal that we have the recommendations as they stand there. I think we begin to make ourselves look silly, frankly, because it's unspecific if we are condemning the UK government, and it's not absolutely specific, and it's not, in fact, shall we say, contained in this report. I don't really, actually, know precisely what I'm voting on if I did anything else other than deal with the recommendations as they stand here. It's not clear.
Claire, can I ask, is the motion proposed, is it competent?
Well, there's certainly been a great deal of discussion in committee about the policy in relation to the other benefits, and obviously the advice from the officers about the others. So, given the discussions today, yes, I would think so.
Okay, so have you a counter amendment?
No, I think I've suggested that I would agree the amendment, which is the recommendations, I believe. Is that right, or is that the motion? Yeah. No. whatever I have seconded, it's definitely the recommendations as they stand there.
Right. Okay. So just to clarify, the motion was by Councillor Wilson. Yeah. I'll leave it to you.
Right. Motion is by Councillor Wilson, seconded by yourself, Chair, which is the recommendations in the report as they are, plus an additional 2.3 and 2.4 as I've already read out, and an amendment proposed by Councillor Carruthers, seconded by Councillor Maitland, to take the recommendations as they are in the report. So going to the vote then, Chair.
Motion.
Vice Chair.
Motion.
Councillor Bell.
Amendment.
Councillor Blake.
Amendment.
Councillor Campbell.
Motion.
Councillor Carruthers.
Amendment.
Councillor Davidson.
Motion.
Councillor Dempster.
Motion.
Councillor Justy.
Amendment.
Councillor Howie. Councillor Ingalls.
Amendment.
Councillor James.
Amendment.
Councillor Little.
Motion.
Councillor Maitland.
Amendment.
Councillor Marshall.
Motion.
Councillor Stitt.
Motion.
Councillor Wilson.
Motion.
Councillor Young.
Motion.
Motion's carried, 10 votes to 8.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 7. Item 8. The review of housing support contracts. Report again by the Head of Customer Services. Report provides members with an update on the review of commissioned housing support contracts and associates advice, assistance and information contracts. Again, Laura Campbell will take any questions on the report. I will now, okay, we'll cross, anything to add to the report? Thank you. Questions? Rob?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm looking at paragraphs 3.21, 3.22, which 3.22, I guess, quite rightly highlights the potential consequences of review of the provision being part of the budget setting process. I do think that review of the provision should be part of the budget setting process. But what I wanted to ask was about the provision for extending the existing contract to September 2018. I think that I recall that at points in the past we have probably been in the situation where extensions were given, but the time wasn't ultimately just quite fully adequate. Can I ask whether we're confident that if we have the budget setting, I think the latest date that we have looked at is possibly the end of February, although it may be a moving feast. Does it allow enough time, if we're looking at presumably the end of September, for the commissioning process to be undertaken? Or are we more sensible looking at a year extension?
Thanks, Chair. We have had discussions with our procurement colleagues to look at the new commission, and we agreed that it would be doable if we agreed in September as part of the budget setting process. We've actually started some of the groundwork already for preparing the new commission, and obviously subject to budget setting would maybe dictate what our expected outcomes from the contracts would be, but we will be working on that groundwork up until the budget setting process, so we are confident at this stage extending it to September would allow us sufficient time.
Sean?
Yeah, just a general point with regards to 2.3. When we do receive a progress report, I'm sure many of us as councillors, when we're dealing with maybe I'm ahead of myself, sorry.
It's an Easter egg time. David Ingles?
Thank you, Chair. Just a point on page 61, 3.9. I think the figures are wrong in that paragraph. Can we check those, please? I think the overall cost should be £499,889.25.
Sorry.
Yeah, apologies, I'll double check those figures to make sure they're correct.
So we'll double check the figures and let members know what the revised figure is. Right, happy with that, David? Yep, thank you. Jim?
Just a general point, Chair. I'm more than content that we should be doing this as part of the budget setting process, but I'd be interested to see when we're reviewing these, what we actually get for our money, and because there's quite significant sums here.
Is it not in the recommendations, Jim?
You're not getting a detailed breakdown of each of the services, where they're located and what you actually get for your money. It may well come to members as part of the budget setting process, but I think we should see what's being done and what we're being contracted to or contracted for.
And that's what 2.7 is.
That's the budget setting. Members don't get to see any other.
The members will get to see it as part of the budget setting process.
Is that what you're saying? Each of these will be broken down into
Jim, it's in 2.7.
You can see it. I'm just not sure that's what it says.
Any questions? In that case, then we'll move to recommendations. Right, we're asked one to agree the preferred option in response to Hanover, Scotland's move to an enhanced housing management model. That's paragraphs 3.12 and appendix 2. We agreed? Right. And are we happy to agree through from 2 to 7? Or do we want me to read them out? Quite happy? Agreed? Right. And then we'll note 2.8, okay? Right, happy? Thanks very much. Move on to item 9. The empty homes report by Head of Customer Services again. The report provides members with an overview of the work carried out to date to tackle the problem of empty homes in the region. It also describes the national policy context. Jim O'Neill's here to take any questions on the report. Jim, you anything to add?
Nothing to add to the report, Chair, thank you.
Just with regard to 2.3, as I said, most councillors will from time to time deal with maybe, direct neighbouring properties to empty homes, especially if they've been long term. Certainly I had one in Polfoot recently. And it was really just when the report comes back, with the council's response to tackling empty homes, it's just what we can do to kind of speed up the process with regards to if there's, if it starts to affect adjacent properties, what we can do. Certainly the council have been helpful when I've contacted them before, but sometimes it's all dependent on the owner and whether or not we have enough measures in place to get them to react quickly enough.
Jim?
Yep, thanks, Chair. I think the first kind of line of approach, if you like, is to try and work with the owners to try and bring the empty property back into use. And in the past, we had a grant system in place where we were able to offer financial assistance to empty homeowners. There are a range of powers available to the council to take enforcement action when an owner fails to engage with the council regarding their empty property. And those powers range from works notices to dangerous building notices and to, for example, amenity notices through the planning process. So it quite often involves working across directorates to take a corporate response to the problem of empty properties. But there are powers there that the council can use.
Thanks, Jim. Sean, yeah.
It would be helpful if that could be included within the, when we do the response, so that, we're clear what measures we can take. And sometimes it's not, it's not obvious what all those kind of actions can be.
Well, depending on what the recommendations, whether they are or not, then I'm sure the director will follow that through. Yeah. Jim?
Thanks, Chair. It's an old subject, but we shouldn't really lose sight of it. Alistair Geddes used to go mental about the Grapes Hotel in Whithorn, and we had one up on Isdale as well. It was an issue, and we tried to develop a derelict building strategy. Now, I don't know why that's not tied into this empty home strategy, because it touches the same community impact. The other thing is, we've got stuff that, like buildings that are at risk, significant buildings or historic buildings at risk, and we could be doing more than we're doing sometimes to tackle the issues. And I think the last thing is, we have empty homes, and the owners are clearly being challenged and being forced to take action. And Jim's paper is absolutely to the point. It's a blight on the communities, it's a scandal, and we really need to be more aggressive than we currently are.
I couldn't agree more with you, Jim, and I think the last two comments could be covered in recommendation at 2.2 and at 2.3, and if you read 3.5 on the papers about a new way of working to provide ownership to transform empty homes. And I think the thrust of this paper, of course, was actually to set up, to allow the director to give him the authorisation to go away and set up an innovative working way. We've never done it here before, but based on a best practice model that recently won an award for Argyll and Bute, very similar area to ourselves. Jane?
Well, I just want to reinforce what you said and what Councillor Dempster has said about potential empty homes. It's the opportunity that the change of, I suppose, viability of some of our hotels and those sort of properties, vital properties in the centre of towns, can provide us before they get into a really sort of terrible state. So I would commend what you're saying, Chairman, with respect to what Councillor Dempster is also saying, that this ought to think about potential homes with respect to the derelict buildings and the buildings which are at risk. I don't know, this is a huge issue, and I don't know whether this might be done on the basis of wards, that we might speak to our ward managers about what we as elected members feel could be done, and bring these things to the attention of the ward managers. So it's a way forward, and I commend this, and I do hope that maybe we can get something going, because it should be done as planning for the centre of towns. What I'm very concerned about is that we don't, with the best will in the world, that we create balanced communities in the centres of towns. There is a danger that has happened in the past that housing and homes which have been made available in the centres of town have been for one particular tranche of society, and I don't think that's immensely helpful. I think it needs to be widespread, and we should plan for that.
Jane, thanks for that support. I think I'm personally, if this goes through the way we expect this to go through here just now, really quite excited about what could be on the table in April 2018. And I think we need to open our eyes and look at the big wider world out there. And it's not just about town centres, it's about empty houses everywhere, right? Including remote rural areas. Different funding packages for all different sorts of things. So, is there any other questions? No. In that case then, I'll move on to the recommendations. Right, we're asked, 1, to note the impact empty homes have in our communities, the national policy context and the actions taken by this council to tackle this problem. That's in paragraphs 3.1 to 3.5. Okay. And I'm going to roll 2 and 3 together because they go hand in hand. Is agree to remit the Director of Communities to consider the most effective methods to ensure the council has a coherent and focused approach to tackling empty homes through working in partnership with appropriate stakeholders, and on the back of that, to receive a progress report on our council's response to tackling empty homes at the 3rd of April 2018 meeting of this committee. You happy to agree? Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item 10, which is the Community Facilities Review. Again, report by the Head of Civic and Local Services. This report provides members with a further update on the transfer of the 33 community facilities across Dumfries and Galloway, which will transfer into community management / ownership and or revised lease arrangements under the Community Facilities Review. Harry Thompson's here to take any questions. And anything further to add, Harry?
Only, Chair, that there's the detail as regards Whithorn Community Centre. There's been a further meeting very recently with the Management Committee there, who have indicated that they are unable to move at this point in time. So further community engagements required to try and move forward with Whithorn. Management Committee is of a fairly advanced age, and there's a need to bring some new life in there.
Thanks, yeah, I know with the integration and so on and so forth, Alan certainly took its hit, and it's one of the last in regards to budget savings, but we're well on our way with that now. So just taking that into consideration, seeing recommendation 2.4, we're getting an update in regards to Appendix 3, and I'm looking at page 93 in particular. We all got an email, I think, was it a Mr McGregor, Community Council for Gretna Rig Community Council. I see that, I mean, I think I have to bring that up, the very top one, Richard Greenhouse Centre, and there's a £52,163 budget pressure there. Do you see if we could get maybe a bit of an update in regards to that, what's happening? I think, like I say, we all got that email. Okay, Harry?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, officers have been reviewing the situation at Richard Greenhouse Centre, and certainly there is a very large degree of council use of that facility through council departments and their service users indirectly. So recognising that, and also the clearly expressed view of the current Management Committee that they do not wish to move forward at this point in time, officers have been reviewing the current costs of the Richard Greenhouse Centre, and they are of the view that they can take out a fair proportion of that £53,000 budget through reducing the facilities management costs, either through cleaning or refuse collection or some of the other ancillary services within the Greenhouse Centre. So hopefully within or by the start of the next financial year, they should have reduced the budget by approximately 20 to 25,000 pounds there. And the next move will be to look at the charges levied against either council departments or their service users for use of the Richard Greenhouse Centre, because currently the charging is at a fairly minimal level. So there's a need to consult and engage with the users within the centre to ensure that the usage of the centre, charges for the usage of the centre, fairly reflect that usage. And having achieved that, then the management of the centre might look like a different proposition to any management committee. There are certainly, I think the letter referred to imply threats of closure, and clearly the previous reports to this committee have said that where there is a viable alternative, closure might be an option, but there is no viable alternative in Gretna at the current time to the Richard Greenhouse Centre.
No, I thank you, Chairman. That last point in particular was the most appropriate point, I think. I think that was the concerns in the local area, certainly, that I've heard. But good to get those assurances, but also good to actually hear that we're being proactive in regards to achieving that budget pressure, making it be applied.
Jane?
Yes, it's a question, and a very specific question is, can you possibly just tell me whether PPP schools are harmonised in terms of their charges? I know the rest of the region is harmonised, has got harmonised charges for the halls, but I just wonder if somebody could tell me whether the PPP schools are sucked into that process as well. And the other thing is a comment is that, I remember in about 2005 that we were trying to deal with this particular problem. And it only dawned on the statutory members then that in fact the rest of the world had people supporting halls throughout the region. And in fact the statutory has supported its own halls, the village halls, for years. In fact, I can say, I can confide in members and tell them that I cleaned Dundrennan Hall lavatories only last week myself. So, actually, I feel a tiny bit of impatience about this myself. I can't help thinking that communities elsewhere in the region really probably ought to step up to the plate and take some responsibility.
I think we just congratulate the member on their being a beacon of community engagement and being a pathfinder for the rest of us. I've got David Ingles.
Thank you, Chair. Page 83, item 313, to go back to the South Machars Community Centre. If we're unable to put a management committee together to run that, how will that impact on that centre? And secondly, if there is no management committee in place, will the refurbishment of the heating system still go ahead?
Harry?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Inglis. Just to expand on the current position of South Machars Community Centre, we had a meeting with the current management committee and user groups earlier on this week. The current management committee exists of 3 members who have now come forward and said they are at a stage in their life that they don't feel they can take this on. So therefore, we are, through the ward worker in that area, we are capacity building within the community and doing some consultation within the community in order to progress further interest in the management committee to take that forward. So that's a very early stage. I'm still quite positive in the fact that it is a busy facility and there will be a commitment from the local community to take that forward. In relation to the scheduled works, which are due to commence in March, at this current time they are still scheduled to continue, and that's the replacement of the heating system within that building. In January we should have a better knowledge of the community buy-in to progress in the sort of management committee aspects. So from there we'll have more knowledge on whether that work needs to be postponed or not. But at this current time, it's going to continue in March.
Thanks. Can I just maybe ask, I think it'd be helpful if the 4 ward members for Ward 2 and the 4 ward members for Gretna, 3 ward members for Gretna, were given some sort of update, exactly where we are just now. And I'm thinking again, I think the corporate response to the Gretna one is the right way forward rather than a whole lot of mixed messages. Are we happy with that? Yeah. Okay. Can you do that, Harry? Yeah.
We'll arrange for that, Chair.
Thanks very much. Anyone else? Jane? Yeah.
Didn't get an answer to the PPP school issue. Could we have that maybe later if you don't know the answer now? Could we have that, please?
We'll consult with colleagues in Sipple, Councillor Maitland.
Thank you very much.
And again, will you let all the members of this committee know, or all elected members?
Yep.
I think it's maybe an occasion to let everybody know, not just this committee. Yeah. Thank you. No more questions? Sean?
It's really just with regards to the amount of work that's done with regards to this over the last couple of years, but members do appreciate that each one of these negotiations is very tricky and needs a lot of tact. So really just to record, thanks for the ongoing work, with all the communities involved, because we are getting to a situation where there's a number of options that are put on the table, and usually one size doesn't fit all, but usually most of the communities can accept some sort of interim arrangement. If not, it's, full transfer over straight away. So it's really, it is working well, and that's down to the officers on the ground actually working with the communities to develop the best model for each of those communities.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it isn't. Thanks.
Yeah, noted. I think it's also worth just bearing in mind this was a total cross-party policy, that there was no objection for any side in this. And I think we need to be really, really careful making some places special cases unless there's an overwhelming business case for it. But I think we are where we are and we need to take it forward. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to go straight to the recommendations then. We'll just look at one, consider the progress has been made in implementing the 2017 facilities review with the committees and the management committees, such that 15 to 16 listed in Appendix 1 will have transferred to committee management or ownership by the end of the 2017 calendar year. That's paragraph 3.6 to 310. Again, 2, note the progress which has been made with the 8 2018-19 properties, and that's Appendix 2. 3, note that indicative previously agreed savings for 2018-19 have been revised to reflect current deliverability levels, paragraph 3.15. 4, consider the progress which has been made to date with the 9 remaining properties within the 2019-20 plan, that's Appendix 3 and paragraphs 316 to 319. And 5, agree to receive a further progress report to the June 2018 committee. And I also don't need to add it to the recommendations. There's a commitment from officers to update elected members on specific properties as appropriate. Okay? So we're happy with that? Okay, thank you. Now to something less contentious. Keep Scotland Beautiful, Roadside Litter Campaign, report by Head of Civic and Local Services. The report seeks members' agreement to participate in the Keep Scotland Beautiful Roadside Litter Campaign, which aims to assist Dumfries and Galloway Council to reduce litter and fly tipping issues on our major trunk roads. Okay, Harry again is here. Right, I think we'll just move straight. Have you anything to add, Harry, or we'll just go straight to questions?
Just the omission of 2 of the trunk roads that we do have in the region as well. So the A7 and the A701 would also be included within any trial.
Oh, and Neil Nesdo forgotten again, eh? Right, okay, terrible. So we'll go straight to questions. Graham.
Thanks, Chair. I've slight reservations about this. Obviously, what are looking at 3.8, you know, the bins were removed from known hotspots. Well, as an elected member, I don't know if I've got a hotspot in my area, but I would need to know, the elected members need to know where the locations are they evidence-based? I've also got reservations about it. I live outside northwest Dumfries, and there's a lot of fast food retail outlets there, and there is various bins on A76 going up towards Sanka, and I know they're used on a regular basis, and if these bins are taken away, there'll be more litter thrown into landowners and private householders. Every week I'm gathering up rubbish in the farm and sending staff out. I'm just the wrong distance from Dumfries when the fish and chip ship gets chucked into my field. If I have a double fish and chip, it probably end up at Dunsker. But the problem is, I'm concerned about that. These bins are being used, and if they're not there, they might not throw the litter in the lay-by, they'll chuck it out the window, but the good, sensible residents who are driving their vehicles will take it home and put it in the bin. So I've got concerns about this, and we need to know where these bins are. So, you know, all the years I've been elected member, people have always come to me and say, we're needing more bins, we need more bins and more facilities to put our rubbish in. If we're taking that away or discouraging people, I've got concerns about this.
Okay.
Know where the known hotspots are and the evidence base as well, which is covered on 3.8.
Chair, we can certainly bring a report to the 5th of February meeting to identify 4 members which laybys we're proposing to conduct the trial in. The benefit of doing this on a trial basis is it will have a control set of laybys that won't be affected by the experiment, essentially. So we'll be able to see what difference there is between those laybys that carry on as normal and those where we've taken bins away, and also those where the bins have additional notices placed on them. We're very much encouraging people to take their litter home with them, though, for disposal, because Otherwise, it's left to the council to deal with the rubbish in the laybys. And it's not that long ago there were no laybys in, no bins in some of these laybys, and there wasn't a litter problem. So scavenged litter by seagulls and other vermin are a bit of an issue in this area as well. So no matter how often you're clearing these bins, there can be issues with them and with the side waste placed beside them as well.
Okay, a number of speakers. I've got Jim Dempster, Adam, and then Ian Carruthers. In that order, Jim.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm happy to go with the recommendation because it's an experimental trial. We'll see how things go. But like Graham Bell, I mean, I drive down for Sanker to these meetings, and it's almost as if the refuse collection vehicle had burst the sump and all the rubbish is scattered out it, because you've never seen so much rubbish lying along the roadside as you see, and it'll be the same on every roadside in the region. So I'm interested in how we monitor this, because I would hate to come back in 3 months' time to be told, or I think it's June next year, but to be told that it's a success, the litter bins, there's no rubbish in the lay-by, but there's twice as much volume of rubbish lying along the roadside as a consequence of that. I think the other question I've got is, and it's in a kind of, not necessarily part of the recommendation, but it talks about roadside litter being an unnecessary risk to your staff. I used to see your staff collecting rubbish on a regular basis along the 76. I no longer see that. And I thought that was a contract we had with Scotland Transerve or AMI or Transport Scotland, so I'd be curious to know if that's still taking place, because it's an earning, it was a means of revenue, income, if it was there. But if we're not doing that, there's a big issue. We're actually no supporting keeping Scotland beautiful if we're not lifting rubbish anywhere along the extent of the A76, the A77, the A75 and whatever else.
Chair, happy to confirm that the uplift of litter from trunk roads is a direct council responsibility. It's not done under contract to Scotland Transerve. So it's the council's responsibility to lift litter along the trunk roads, and we do that on a periodic basis. But our resources, as members are aware, are limited, and therefore we are sending workforce out on a periodic basis to lift litter along the routes of the trunk roads. But it's an operation that does require significant input in terms of both manpower and also a traffic control to ensure the safety of workforce when they're out there.
I understand that, Chair, through you, and I'm really disappointed that we are not allowed to do anything in the trunk roads because it's not our responsibility, but obviously we've suddenly acquired the responsibility in some respects. I'm disappointed that that's not supported by the Scottish Government or the National Government, because the trunk roads are not our responsibility. But I'd still be interested to know the volume of litter that's picked up as a consequence of the roadside litter picking, whether or not it increases. I'd also be interested to know offline how often we do it, Harry.
Just to clarify, Harry, the responsibility is because it's the littering, it's not because it's the trunk roads. It's two separate issues here. Am I right? Or public duty to gather litter?
Yeah, under the Environmental Protection Act, responsibility for litter on trunk roads remains with the local authorities.
Absolutely, so it's got nothing to do with Transport Scotland. Adam and then Ian Carruthers.
Thank you, Chair. I've got to say I am sceptical about this campaign, it's being called, and I would like to know exactly what lay-by is going to be affected. I thought that my ward was going to avoid this trial, experiment, whatever you want to call it, but it would be handy to know. I feel that, I appreciate that it's worked in other local authorities, but particularly in Andale, and I'm sure that Councillor Carruthers will agree with me, the A74M is, a huge problem for a huge benefit, but it has some problems in that the number of lorry drivers that use the side of the roads for, I'm trying to think of polite words to you, to do their business and to drop their litter, it's a huge frustration to people in Andale and Eskdale. If it was me and any family, anyone looks at my car, it's a pigsty, I take my rubbish home. Unfortunately, lorry drivers don't, and that's where the problem is. And You know, trying to change that habit, that atmosphere, you know, that practice, you know, probably better bang your head off a brick wall, because it frankly isn't going to happen. We've tried and it's failed. I am concerned that actually what could be a result of this is that it's our communities that end up picking up more litter from here, there and everywhere, you know, even on farms. But the academic within me would like to see the report of this trial, would like to read this report come June. So, you know, I welcome the trial. You know, if it's successful, I'll take it. But I do look forward to reading this report. The academic within me is looking forward to that. So, you know, I'll welcome it to a certain extent.
Okay, I think that was more a statement than a question. Just for clarity, before I've got the two Ians coming in, we're saying here 3 per area. We're not saying every lay-by. Right? We're saying trial in 3 places. Absolutely. So that's 3 places in the Stuartry, 3 places in Annandale, Nesdale, 3 in Nisdale, and 3 in Wigtonshire. You know, let's not lose sight of that. This is a trial. Okay, Ian Carruthers first, and then Ian Blake after that.
And Councillor Maitland did have her hand up, but I'll certainly. But going back, I mean, the points have been raised, I think, very well. I think we should, as a council, be innovative wherever we can, and clearly this is an attempt at that kind of direction. But I just think the same concerns as everybody else. It's a cause and effect. Where does it actually end up? I could take you to a place, a particular concern in my ward, which is it's not a lay-by. It's just you turn off, go down the A75, turn off at Hetland or for Crotherstone, the top one at Hetland Hall, turn in there on your left-hand side. The lorries naturally, because there's no truck stop between, I think it's Southway, or certainly it's in about the Southway area, right up through to Sunra. When they come off their trucks, the lorry drivers have got nowhere else to park, legitimately, so they're parking, whether it's a lay-by, a place like that, and it is cans of Coke, crisp packets, human waste, so on and so forth. And going back to the point of the responsibility of the council, it is the responsibility of the council to pick up that litter, whether it's on the 75 out with or not. But does the Scottish Government actually fund us properly to the right tune? I don't know if they do actually. I think kind of come back to some of the points you're making about Westminster earlier. We really need to be pointing the finger. Actually, should we actually be writing to the appropriate minister to say they should be funding more money towards, giving councils more money towards this, Dumfries and Galloway in particular. But maybe leave politics to the side. Look forward to see it coming back. We need to see, I think, from an elected member's point of view, identify the sites, see what we're looking at. We can then monitor them ourselves as we pass by on a daily basis. We need to see that coming back. But obviously there's a layer of scepticism on this, but all the best.
Thank you, Chairman. I too have reservations about this, I must admit. When you look at the 2 areas that have tried it, South Ayrshire Council and Angus, where South Ayrshire have a kind of positive response to it, so Angus is not quite the same. They've got a very mixed view. I appreciate that it's a trial period, and I understand the reasoning by removing some bins and then checking them against others. I think it'd be far easier if we limited this to one area and did the pilot in one area. Then you could benchmark against the areas that are not changed. We did this with the waste collection in Wigton for that and other reasons, although they still have that pilot. But maybe the Wigton area is an area to pilot this and just trial it solely in that one area and measure it against the aspects of the other areas.
Thanks, Ian. I've got Jane, Sean, and then Andrew Justy.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not quite so depressed about the change in social attitudes. I mean, we've had changes in social attitudes. People used to spit. People used to let their dogs foul. It's all now, and people used to drive with alcohol in their blood. It's all changing. There are changes in the way that people behave. And it takes time, I do accept that, but you've got to start somewhere. So I do agree that we should have an experiment. Do we have to have signs? I would suggest that a sign is simply somewhere where you lean your bag of rubble or your mattress against in the lay-bys. And I would suggest that we actually just go with the Ayrshire experiment and go the whole hog without putting anything extra in. and do it from that point. The other thing I'd like to ask is it possible to add a bit of a stick into this, as well as the carrot of removing 1.6 million in the long run, 1.6 million pounds worth of funding, which it costs, I believe, this council to have people pick up litter. It's a very great deal of money, and I don't think people actually really understand that could be applied to other services which they'd much prefer to have. Could we have temporary signs? Can we use CCTV in hotspots? Can we actually widen this and make other options available? So I've just asked this, whether, through you, Chairman, whether it's possible to have add-ons on an experiment here. But I'm quite serious about the signs. Let's not have extra expense.
But before you answer, could I maybe just add in there, maybe increased use of the community wardens or staff to see if we can do something about this?
Chair, our community assets teams do liaise with community safety on a regular basis as regards hotspots, both for fly tipping and for littering and other activities such as dog fouling. Covert surveillance is a bit of an issue in terms of the equipment that's in place and the permissions that we have to undertake covert surveillance, and we do need to go through the full RIPSA process to get authorisation to undertake that. And we need to have safeguards in terms of the equipment that's left out, because clearly if that goes missing, then there are issues in terms of the data protection. So it's a thorny area, but there is regular liaison, and as far as possible, community safety are assisting in identifying perpetrators and pursuing them through the fixed penalty system. The signs would be temporary that are being proposed in the laybys in any case, and I think our discussions with Keep Scotland Beautiful and with the other issue is that we have the ferry companies involved, and we also potentially have the likes of the Freight Transport Association involved as well. So the other element is communication, and in particular communication with haulage drivers and operators, because they are clearly one of the sources of litter in these laybys, and we really need to engage with them, as we've discussed at this committee before. The ability to engage with the haulage operators and drivers is a real plus within this trial.
Okay, Jane. Sean?
Yeah, probably like many councillors, when they read this report initially, I was a bit sceptical. It kind of defies logic that if you take the bins away, then you reduce the litter. So I'm quite willing to actually, engage in the trial, but I think the trial has to be meaningful. If you're talking and identifying locations, I think you have to identify hotspot locations, and like Ian and Adam have said, in Andale and Estill, I would want one of the laybys that is a known stop-off for lorries, because I don't think you've got to stop the lorries from parking there. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with the rubbish, and not just to look at the lay-by vicinity, but to look over into the field as well. But certainly, let's go ahead with the trial, but I'm a bit sceptical about the outcome.
Thanks. Andrew and then David Ingalls.
Thanks, Chair. About 2 months ago, Councillor Ingalls, myself, Karen Brownlee and representatives from both the ferry ports met with Keep Scotland Beautiful, where they actually proposed this. But from my understanding at that meeting, we were going to trial it in Wigtonshire to begin with, and then see how it went in Wigtonshire, and then look at rolling it out. So I'm just curious as to how it's developed to be a whole Dumfries and Galloway wide trial.
Karen?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Gusty. At that meeting, my impression was we were talking region-wide, and therefore the trial is proposed region-wide as an initiative. As previously stated, we are looking at 3 to 4 bins per area on all the trunk roads. So hence the reason that we are where we are with this. There was, as far as I'm concerned, there was no discussions in relation to solely Wigtonshire.
Okay, I'm just pleased you had an opportunity to influence regional policy, Andrew, down in Stranraer. So that's David, you wanted back in?
Yeah, Chair. Yeah, I agree. I think it was a region-wide policy. That was my take on it. The issue is we've got a litter problem, and the only thing that's on the table at the minute is this. It's a trial period for 6 months. I think we should just go with this. Let them. I mean, these people know what they're doing. Just wherever the lay-bys are that they feel are the hotspots, that's where they're going to target. And I think we should just let them get on with it.
Thanks very much. I'm picking up round the room. Everybody's, well, some are a wee bit sceptical. There's at least a support for the trial. The only bit where we've got I suppose a wee divergence is whether we put signs up to warn people or not, or we effectively use the South Ayrshire model as opposed to the separate model. I mean, we're kind of thinking on our feet here, but would we be happy, for example, to go with the South Ayrshire model to see if it transfers down to Dumfries and Galloway, and do that right across the region? Adam? Sorry, just a second, Jim, because you're no first speaker. It's Adam.
Thanks, Jim. I actually would like to know what Keep Scotland Beautiful think. It's all well and good us saying that we'll remove signs, keep them there, but actually I would rather see what do they think will work, and let's trial that. And if it costs an extra £200,000, well, maybe that's the cost of having a better, worthwhile trial rather than just making it off of a hoof.
I think so. I think the wee discussion at the top table here just now was that, I think we should leave it to the officers and the intelligence that we have. For some laybys have signs, some laybys don't have signs. And then that gives us a comparison to see how it goes. I've got a few people still want to speak on this, actually. I've got Graham, Ian Black, Ian Blake, sorry. John's and then back to Jim.
Thanks, Chair. Obviously, I've still got concerns. I'm still quite sceptical about obviously the region-wide policy. But will the community councils be contacted and consulted in this? Obviously, they have their role to play because some local community councils region-wide, they'd be interested to hear their comments and feedback as well. I know some of them are quite concerned, especially in some of the rural areas, and that impact is going to have on farmers and private householders. That's what concerns me. So I feel that they should have a role to play as well, as they were an inclusive council. So we need to hear what they're saying as well, Chair.
I'll let Harry in.
Chair, well, certainly advise the community councils neighbouring the laybys affected, but I think in terms of the actual impacts and the causes of littering within these laybys, it's clearly a much wider issue than simply local traffic. So the engagement is very much with the kind of strategic traffic moving through the routes. And we certainly wouldn't normally expect local groups to get involved in cleaning along trunk roads. That's clearly an issue that we need to deal with through our own workforce who are trained to litter pick within trunk roads and laybys on trunk roads.
Thanks. Okay. Ian Blake, sorry about that. Ian called you Black before, sorry.
It's all right, I haven't been called worse things. One of the reservations I said earlier, you picked out the one that Jane mentioned about the signage, but I also said that I felt that there were a danger of just putting this right across the region, and I think it should be concentrated in one area. I still go with that because I feel that if there is a displacement factor of rubbish, if you take in the Wigton area, for instance, if it comes further along the A75 and gets dumped, then we would have something to measure it against. And I'd be quite happy to propose that we do go ahead with it, but retain it to a pilot in Wigton.
I was just going to say, Chair, what we should be doing here is a low-cost option, so that if it fails, it's no run this council into a lot of expense. We still do the same thing, but a relatively inexpensive way to start with. If Andrew wants the exercise to be conducted solely in his area, I would have to endorse that. The last thing I'll say though is, and I hope that we are working with partners, and I'm not talking about community safety now. I've tried for years to get the police to stop lorries parking in the town I live in and turn it into a tip, and they don't seem to be particularly concerned. We have an informal lorry park, and we get the same stuff that Ian refers to in his area. So there are issues out with your control that could be better dealt with, that would also assist in the addressing the litter issue.
Okay, I've got Adam.
Can we just ask Harry, how do you think, yourselves and Keep Scotland Beautiful, if it was in Wigtonshire, I would have great pleasure in just putting this on the people of Wigtonshire, but I think that would be grossly unfair for everyone else not to have to endure this trail as well. But how do you think yourselves and Keep Scotland Beautiful would see just one area? I'm a bit sceptical that actually, thinking of Andale and Estill, the amount of traffic and the types of traffic that we have is significantly different to Wigtonshire. And, I would be a bit concerned about, any future policy development out.
Chair, I think the approach from KSB was certainly on a region-wide basis, recognising that there are trunk roads that move throughout the region east to west and north to south. So there's a wish on their part to have a look at how this exercise works out in each of the 4 areas.
David James.
Thank you, Chair. Littering is a problem. I think it's unfair that all of us should have to pay for the actions of litter louts. They're clearly not frightened of being caught, and I think we should be lobbying for harsher penalties. I think a motorist that lets litter be thrown out of his vehicle should be banned from driving, and I think we should try and lobby national government for, well, that type of penalty or even harsher.
Right, okay, thanks. Just one comment I would have against what you're suggesting, Ian, is that the transient population using the different roads are totally different. Right? So we can't have, and that kind of backs up what Adam was saying, we need to go across the 4 areas because the people who use the A7 on a regular basis are totally different from the ones who use the A77, who use the A75, and who use the A76. And then, of course, you've also got the east to west and north to south. You've got a number here, so I would actually go with the recommendations, and I'm happy to move that. I'm bringing this to a close because we've actually talked more about this than we had about universal credit, right? Now, can we just actually get bottomed out of the position here? Ian, you've put a motion forward to pilot this in Stranraer, in Wigtonshire?
I certainly did. I put that motion forward. I think it would give a benchmarking. It would show if there were a displacement to another area. If we put it right across the board, we wouldn't have the same.
Okay, Ian, who's the seconder? Graham Bell seconded it. I'll actually propose that we actually go with the recommendations, and David Stitt is seconding that. So I'm not rushing you through now, but the lunch is here and the soup's getting cold. Okay, Claire, can you take us through the process? Yeah.
Of course, Chair. Right, I've got a motion proposed by Councillor Blake, seconded by Councillor Bell. The difference here is in recommendation 2.1, so it's to agree to participate in Keeping Scotland Beautiful Roadside Litter campaign as a trial, focusing on the Wigton area. And the amendment was proposed by yourself, Chair, seconded by Councillor Stitt, to go with recommendation 2.1 as is in the report, which would cover all 4 areas.
Okay, thanks. Just before we go to the vote, can I just clarify with Ian, it's only 2.1 we're amending, not 2. We're happy with 2.2, the second recommendation reporting back in April. In June.
Certainly, it's important that we do get that.
Okay, that's fine. So it's only that first part, Ian. Thank you.
Okay, then going to the vote. Chair.
Amendment.
Vice Chair.
Amendment.
Councillor Bell.
Motion.
Councillor Blake.
Motion.
Councillor Campbell.
Amendment.
Councillor Carruthers.
Motion.
Councillor Davidson.
Amendment.
Councillor Dempster.
Amendment.
Councillor Giusti.
Motion.
Councillor Howie. Councillor Ingalls.
Amendment.
Councillor James.
Motion.
Councillor Little.
Amendment.
Councillor Maitland.
Amendment.
Councillor Marshall.
Amendment.
Councillor Stitt.
Amendment.
Councillor Wilson.
Amendment.
Councillor Young.
Amendment.
Amendments carried 13 votes to 5.
Thank you. As I say, lunch is here. It was already agreed because that was the motion. Mine was to go with the recommendations. Okay, lunch is here. It's just come up to 12:15. What, you want to come back, what, 1:45? Is that enough time for you? We're using that clock up there. Yeah. Well, okay, I suppose, right, I'm getting urged here to have a look here. Do we look at the next three? But we've then got private business as well. We've got private business as well. Right. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Right. I was on the suggestion for the chair. I'm happy to keep going personally, because we could have this all done, dusted, then have your lunch, and then finished. Right. Okay. That's sensible. Keep going. Right. Where's Jim? Is it? Aye. Right.
Next year he gets a coronation chicken.
Aye, well, absolutely. It's right. Okay, sorry about that, folks. We'll just have cold soup, right? We'll go. Thanks. We'll move on to item 12. As you know, this is to agree in principle the submitting a prescriptive claimant's application to the Register for Scotland in respect of an area of land at Beeches Avenue, Cargenbridge. Harry's here to answer any questions. Does anybody have any questions on this? David?
Can I just say, Andy, I think myself, Robin, you will be fully supportive of this, because the one individual for the community council has worked their socks off to raise this money, and I think it's important, if they want more sponsorships, they've got to get the required land. And just for a wee bit of correction at 3.4, it's not Cargenbridge Community Council, it's Traquair Landward, and we take great.
Right. Okay. So are we agreed? Okay. Thank you. Item 13 is the Dumfries and Galloway Safety Advisory Group, report by the Head of Civic and Local Services. The purpose of the report is to seek approval for the introduction of a Dumfries and Galloway Events Safety Advisory Group policy in response to recommendations made by a National Safety at Public Events Working Group chaired by COSLA. We've got Martin Ogilvie here with Harry to answer any questions. Are we ready just to go straight to questions? Okay, thank you. Jane?
My question on this is exactly how appropriate it is for an area such as Dumfries and Galloway. I understand that this will be probably aimed at large events where the agencies believe there is a significant risk. My concern is that there is no guarantee that you don't get somebody chairing the SAG core group who will decide that actually their appetite for risk is very much diminished, and there is nothing to say that this will come back to us to say, hang on a second, it's not appropriate what you're insisting that our local voluntary, for example, organisers actually do. So my question really was, has the paper been properly consulted across all events organisers who might be expected to be involved in this? And I see nothing in here to indicate that our current processes are not adequate. What is to say that they are not adequate?
Martin?
I think often changes are made because someone's experienced a difficult situation, and we certainly have evidence in Scotland of two recent very difficult, tragic situations where lessons have been learned. And the whole idea of the working group was set up on the back of the fatal accident inquiry that's currently still taking place. In particular, the practice that was put in place by our neighbours across the Scottish borders to ensure that there's an opportunity to support the event organisers by giving a one-stop shop for all the agencies to meet with the event organiser and discuss all the issues at one time. I think there's a list within the policy at 6.1, I think it is, that lists the different agencies that would be required to support the event organisers by bringing in licensing, by bringing in fire, by bringing in police, by bringing in the ambulance with the local authority. One chance for the event organiser to come in and discuss all the concerns is actually proved really worthwhile to the event organisers. And my head of service and myself went through with a principal officer through to watch how the borders ran their SAG process earlier in the year. Seems to have been very well accepted by all the event organisers through in the borders. We've also done a comparison with Perth and Kinross, who have a slightly different appetite for risk and probably one similar to our own, where we would just be looking at the biggest events. So this year I went out and spoke to the event organisers for Electric Fields, for Knockandorroch, for the Eden Festival, and they all willingly participated in an event around at the Brooms Road Fire Station back in spring, facilitated by ourselves, but with trainers down from the Scottish Government. And they all took a lot from that in terms of their broader understanding of the issues that we hope will never happen, but in terms of a risk assessment process, scenarios which may take place. And I think they were all reassured by that. I think they were all quite willing to participate. And in fact, we'll be offering them further training next year, free training, which we will transport them to up in the Central Belt, where they can sit down with other event organisers and look and work with the national organisations like the police, the fire and the ambulance to improve the safety ultimately for the public participating and watching in these larger events.
Anyone else? I think what we're looking for here is it's a common sense approach, isn't it? That you've taken. It's not a carte blanche. It's not everything. And what I'd like to see to make sure is that when we do have these meetings, it's like what we can do, not what we can't do. And I think the other kind of thing that's been kind of flagged up to me was, do we take the support to them rather than them have to come to us for the support? And I think I'd be minded to think we should be taking the support to them rather than then volunteers have to come all the way to the centre here to meet people. Because let's be honest, the Police Scotland rep for Lincolnshire will be probably somebody based in Lincolnshire. Right, I think that it's a common sense approach we need. And I can do, not I can't do. And let's facilitate and just get it out and go and support these community events. So, if you have any comment on that?
Chair, would certainly look to take a sensible and proportionate approach to this, and clearly given the size of the scale of the area, it would be appropriate potentially to look at an east-west arrangement whereby we hold the SAGs for events in the west, somewhere to the west of Castle Douglas, and likewise in the east. I think the key message we get from Scottish Borders and their SAG process has been in place for a number of years now is that it's about identifying responsibility within the events organisers so that they're clearly aware of their responsibilities and they're clearly identified within the events so that the chair of the event is actually taking responsibility for safety within that event. And it also gives those events organisers the chance to have the statutory agencies answer for their concerns. So the police are asked to justify their inputs to events, and that maybe will help to address some of the concerns we've had in this area in previous years as well. So there's a consistency in response from the statutory agencies to all of the events that are attending a particular SAG.
Thank you. Can I just maybe ask Martin again, the causeless safety at public events working group, who have you any idea who made that up, what the makeup of that was?
I can make the full report available if members want it, but the causeless report sort of lists, again, all the national agencies you would expect with representatives from other councils around Scotland who have got experience of running larger events than we have. So I think I'm pretty much convinced that the group that participated in the working group had all the right expertise around it.
I'll just be very quick, Chair. I mean, I think the principles agree, and it's pretty straightforward. But I mean, ultimately, the point that Councillor Maitland's brought up, I think we have to take it seriously in regards to the potential impact. What does it have? So where do we actually see that? I think, do we see this in a year's time or 18 months or whatever it may be, just to say, right, okay, we've agreed this strategy. How do we actually monitor that at some point later in the future? And so we do understand the impacts of the decision that we're making today.
I'm assuming here that we're going to get regular reports back to this committee either every 6 months or every year, probably.
Chair, I would suggest an annual report back to committee from the oversight group.
And the, you know, we need to treat it seriously. This is coming at the back of a fatal accident inquiry. So I'm drawing this kind of to a conclusion now. And are we happy to go to the recommendations? Yeah. Jane, and we get a report back in a year.
Okay, that's fine. But members should realise that they are giving up on who it is who decides that who should be involved, what events should be involved. That then will go to the SAG criteria as far as the safety group core advisor. So you know, I just don't absolutely think that we have tailored this for our own purposes. There is no voluntary input into this. There is no, I don't think at the moment, there is no way of members actually putting a brake on this to say, hang on a second, I think you're using a sledgehammer to crack the proverbial nut. But I'm very happy and I'm grateful for my colleague's proposal that this should come back and should be reviewed in a year.
Okay, so we'll move on to recommendations then. So we're going to, 1, accept all the recommendations made by the Causeless Safety and Public Events Working Group. Very happy? Yep. And 2, approve the Safety Advisory Group policy, including the Chair and Vice Chairs, as set out in paragraph 6.1. And there needs to be a 3 in there, of course, for this committee to receive an annual update on the business of the advisory group, okay, the SAG. Okay, happy with that? Thank you very much. 14 is Museum and Libraries Accreditation Scheme, Museums and Libraries Forward Plan and Collections Development Policy, again by the Head of Civil and Local. The report seeks approval for a new Museums and Galleries Forward Plan and Collections Development Policy for the period 2018 to 2023, which will guide the work of the Council's Arts and Museum Service and help ensure that it meets the quality standards set out by the UK Museums Accreditation Scheme. Again, Harry's here with Rebecca Coggins to take any questions. You'll just move straight to questions? Yeah, move straight to questions. Yep. Okay, I think we have to commend an excellent piece of work, and if we're happy to go, we'll just agree the recommendations. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Rebecca. That was short and sweet. Okay, we've now got item 15. I've got no other business. I did accept a late item of business for exempt. So can we adopt the resolution to exclude the public from the meeting in terms of paragraph 9 of part 1 of Schedule 7A of the Local Government Scotland Act 1973? Agreed? Okay.